On one hand, we have a technology that is evolving fast and requiring a whole different set of skills. And on the other hand, we have a training and a skilling system that is outdated, but is also under attack from policymakers. So I think it's important for policymakers to recognize that they have a very important role to play in making sure that learning and skilling and platforms and opportunities are more widely available, and not to restrict ways to have citizens access these learning opportunities. My name is Abhilash Mishra, and I am the founder and chief science officer of Equitech Futures. Equitech Futures is an innovation lab and technology fellowship that brings together emerging innovators from around the world who want to build AI tools to tackle societal challenges. We work with innovators from over 60 countries through institutes and a venture lab and applied research fellowships to support them to become the builders of a better tomorrow.
I'm actually just going to ask you a quick question about that. How do you find the people to work with you and ensure that it is kind of across the board?
Yeah, we actually use a lot of technology tools. We use Instagram, LinkedIn, a lot of WhatsApp channels to discover this emerging innovators. We've been very lucky to partner with institutions and other talent networks like the Rhodes Trust, the Latin American Leadership Academy, the Loran Scholars Program, that helps us tap into this global pool of talent.
How can people apply to be a part of it?
We have multiple institutes that run through the year, and people can just apply through our website, equitechfutures.com. One of the aspects of our application is that we actually don't look at GPAs and traditional CVs. We spend a lot of time trying to discover individuals who are doing work already in the communities and are trying to build new solutions without looking at the kind of traditional academic accolades that tend to be used to attract people into graduate programs and research programs.
You do bridge astrophysics, policy, and tech for good. In your entrepreneurial experience, how would you say you translate scientific rigor into effective policy and societal outcomes?
I think science, the broad lesson from science and my astrophysics career was to focus on experimentation, to try new solutions and see what works, and to really take a data-focused approach to experimentation, to try experiments, collect data, to really understand how different solutions work in different contexts and why they work and why they fail in different contexts. And I think taking that lens to social policy, I think is extremely important, because oftentimes social policies are driven by dogma or assumptions that don't get questioned or don't get tested. And so taking the kind of empirical approach towards social policy and the design of new technology tools that can affect social policy, I think is something that I really learned from my career as an astrophysicist.
How did you find out about this and get in touch with Dr. Joy at the Algorithmic Justice League?
Both Dr. Joy and I are Rhodes Scholars. I was Rhodes Scholar here in Oxford from 2008 through 2010. I have followed her career for almost more than a decade and had read some of the original work that she had done at the MIT Media Lab around work on discrimination in computer vision systems that eventually led to the coded bias documentary. We actually show the Coded Bias documentary to the innovators who participate in the Equitech Futures Institute because we feel it's a very powerful way to communicate to innovators that there are many different ways in which you can be a technologist and engage with problems. It's not just about building new tools, it's also about trying to use rigorous analytical approaches to evaluate and audit tools that exist in the world and to demonstrate ways in which they are powerful, but also ways in which they can fail. So that's how I've been familiar with Dr. Joy's work. And I've been a big fan of the approach that she has taken, which is to hold technology tools accountable as opposed to just blindly assuming that technology tools are out there doing good in the world. And I feel there's a need for more innovators out in the world who play that adversarial role of evaluating technologies and seeing what kind of impact they have.
And in your opinion, what are some AI harms in your world, and how are they evolving, and what should people be aware of?
I work a lot with innovators from the global south, and the thing that we keep hearing over and over again about AI harm is exclusion. A lot of AI tools assume access to certain basic technologies. So a lot of AI tools assume the fact that a user has access to a smartphone, has access to high quality broadband internet. That is just not true for the vast majority of the world. I also want to kind of underscore the fact that sometimes when we talk about the global south, it might give the impression that it is a small fraction of the human population. It is actually the global majority. It is over 4 to 5 billion people in the world who still don't have access to high quality internet, who still don't have access to the kind of internet-enabled devices that most people in the UK or in the US take for granted. So one of the AI harms that I see is tools that are being built that will just exclude a large group of people from ever using them. The second type of harms that I see is even when people have access to specific types of AI tools, they are not contextualized to the problems that people face in their communities and in their lives, which can again lead to another layer of exclusion and kind of increase the inequalities. One example that I like to think of is a majority of AI tools are centered around language and assume a certain degree of literacy, particularly in English. The vast majority of the world, does not read English or speak English, and a vast majority of the world would actually prefer to engage with technology tools using voice platforms. And whereas when you actually look at a lot of voice AI tools, they function relatively well in a US context, but fail or are extremely poorly developed, whether it comes to users in South Asia or in Africa. And I think this building of AI tools that is not centered around the context of people from around the world is a real challenge around AI that I'd see is just going to increase the kind of inequalities over the next decade.
Do you see any ways in which science and technology can help to rebuild the trust in public systems, especially in the communities like you've been talking about that have been historically left out? How do we solve this problem that you're talking about?
So historically, I think the way in which technology has evolved, we have had the builders of technology centered in maybe 2 to 3 hubs in the world, whether that is Silicon Valley or New York or London. And we kind of think about the global majority as passive consumers of technology. And that is more true than ever in AI. If you look at the investments in AI, they primarily go to companies based in Silicon Valley, New York or London or Paris. And what that leads to is a certain lack of agency for the vast majority of the population in the world. And one way in which science and technology can really fix that is to increase the pool of innovators who are building these tools. So enabling and empowering innovators from constituencies that have been overlooked, whether that is low-income, underserved communities in the West, in the US and the UK and in Europe, or underserved countries and entire continents like the African continent or in South Asia, where innovators are just not represented adequately. I think fixing that, making sure that we have more innovators brought into the fold, that we fund them, that we take their ideas seriously, I think is critical for us to build a future where individuals and communities around the world will start to feel like they have a say and they have a seat at the table in building and shaping the technology, as opposed to being mere passive consumers of this technology.
And I guess going back to the kind of the original question, how do you find these innovators in these communities that don't have necessarily the capabilities like we've talked about in the big cities, or how do these companies find these people that are in these communities?
The way in which we have been thinking about hiring innovators in the big companies, whether that is the OpenAIs or the Microsofts of the world, we typically think about them as coming from certain types of institutions, whether it is an institution like here at the University of Oxford or Stanford or MIT. And we know that these institutions have a lot of baked in inequities in the way in which they hire people, whether that is relying on traditional metrics like GPAs, or as simple as trying to focus on individuals who have an American passport over individuals who might need a visa that is that's a very arduous process to get. And so really changing the invitation of who we want to bring to the table is critical when we want to build and bring in new innovators who want to build technologies. Now that can include things like hiring and recruiting individuals based on what they have done, as opposed to individuals who have been merely being able to ace an exam. And I think that's something that we need to think about deeply, about ways in which we are trying to recruit people, and also trying to highlight individuals from other constituencies who have succeeded. One of the reasons I really admire Joy is I think her work has really been a powerful way for women and people of color to say, here's an example of an individual who has been able to profoundly shape the shape of AI development around the world, and they too can do it. So having role models is critical, and elevating role models is critical. And so changing the invitation, and I think having and highlighting more role models for young innovators is extremely important to change the way in which we want to shape the trajectory of technology in the future.
What role do you think scientists should play in ensuring that AI tools are not just innovative, but aligned with long-term societal well-being?
A lot of science and technology research, particularly around AI, tends to be focused on technical innovations, whether that is model development, trying to improve models. That is where a lot of funding has been allocated. That is where the big players in the world have tried to allocate a lot of resources and talent. I think as scientists and technologists, one of the ways in which we can help and play a role building better AI products is to move away from just the kind of foundational model building into really asking what kind of tools work in the real world. And that involves engaging with users from diverse communities, going and taking these tools and working with users and collecting data on what is working and what is not working, and enabling this kind of applied research and translational research around AI. I think is super important in trying to make sure that we as scientists and technologists can help build AI tools that are not just powerful, but also useful for a lot of the communities that we want to serve.
Great. And I mean, do you think, what everyone's asking, we should be worried about AI taking over jobs, or is the bigger concern how it's used and who benefits, or is it both?
I think the jury is still out on that, and I honestly don't know as to how worried we should be about AI taking away jobs. What I do worry about is that the way in which we are training college students and school students is at odds with the way in which technology is evolving. So I think we should be worried about AI taking away jobs if we follow the kind of old mode of skilling individuals or training individuals for the workforce. So if we are able to figure out how we skill people in the next 10 to 20 years, I don't think that we'll kind of face the kind of jobs catastrophe that we are fearing. This, by the way, happened in the last century too. In the early parts of the 20th century, there was a lot of anxiety about how agricultural workers are going to be out of a job because of the fact that agriculture was almost 40% of, say, the American economy. Today, agriculture is just 2% of the American economy or the American labor force. And the reason that happened was the college system in the United States. We had a mandate by the government saying we need to get more students to not just finish high school, but also go to college. And college was made more affordable. College was made more accessible. And the fact that college has become way more expensive, colleges are under attack by administrations around the world, really pose an existential threat to this problem, where on one hand, we have a technology that is evolving fast and requiring a whole different set of skills. And on the other hand, we have a training and a skilling system that is outdated, but is also under attack from policymakers. So I think it's important for policymakers to recognize that they have a very important role to play in making sure that learning and skilling and platforms and opportunities are more widely available, and not to restrict ways to have citizens access these learning opportunities.
Any last words before we go?
I just want to thank Dr. Joy for the work that she has done and for being such an incredible role model for a lot of emerging innovators around the world. And I hope that a lot of emerging innovators around the world will see coded bias and find that they have new creative ways in which they can be technologists for a better future.